But they should be at the same time. Education should never be a right that someone has to fight for. And unfortunately,
It is.
girls are trying. But you know more about that than I
It
do.
is surprising, like this century that we're living in with the tech and AI and how easily to get information and access to education, while on the other hand, you see millions and millions of girls completely deprived of education in Afghanistan. It should, I don't know, like people shouldn't normalize this at all. Like whenever, like it's been like more than 3 years this is happening in our country, and we did so much advocacy internationally, regionally, and locally. But to some extent, countries, especially developed countries or countries who does have the power to actually make a difference in Afghanistan, they're not doing enough. Priorities are shifting in different countries, and people don't understand that what's happening in Afghanistan can have a ripple effect in other countries as well, in regional countries as well. This is, I think, it still like shocks me now. Is like how can we like still normalize this, where like education is like, you're right, you should have access to education, but now the more I see it becoming a privilege now. Like, yes, access to education is becoming a privilege now. And sometimes, because when I did my school in Afghanistan, I remember I was in a government school. We had no resources. We didn't have any labs. Most of the things were just theory. Like we were doing chemistry in our head, biology in our head. It's like, yes, because we didn't have that basic resources. And when I started working in one of the universities here, I could see like how much resources are available to students here if they can use it. So there was always like this disconnect that I could feel like, oh, imagine like if we had all these resources back in Afghanistan, people and especially girls could have like made so much of their future and even their career or their education, their lives. So I always like feel that disconnect, like looking and growing up here and then seeing things here is like, yeah. So there is like that survival guilt is always there, but like seeing the reality too close, sometimes like completely makes you hopeless as well. So like I have to like, oh no, like you know what, you made it through here, so let's use whatever opportunities is available to help my cousins or like my friends back in Afghanistan and the Afghan girls.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that to you. The fact of the matter is, someone like you took their resources and their efforts and put it into helping somebody. And you could have survivor's guilt as much as you want, but this is the absolute most you could probably do to give back. And you're doing it. So I think that's commendable. You and many, many other people all over the world in countries like Afghanistan. There's always someone to help, even here. If you're just looking to search for a charity, you'll find one very quickly. Sometimes just donation boxes at your local shops, at your local place of worship. And there's always somebody in need. And it's not a contest about who should get more help or whether one country has better political ties and that makes them entitled to more funding. Cough, cough, not going to mention a country. But respectfully, this is also not that country's fault. It's the political, geopolitical landscape that will isolate one country, perhaps Afghanistan in this case, and favor another, really looking past humanitarian need. I think there must be times in which those that are responsible, like the leadership and the politicians, look past whatever issues they might have together when they gather in their fancy conferences and just say, right now, we need to put a pause on that and we can fix our trade wars later. Perhaps we should help those that are in need or help those young people that are the future. And women, especially, they're sometimes often overlooked because women, especially in countries like ours, they not only need to be educated, but their education educates the next generation.
Yeah.
In countries like ours, where men are primarily the breadwinners, it's double essential for women to be educated because they are the ones spending most times with the children on an everyday basis.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just echoing what you said. Is that, like, to be honest, I know this because like when I attend the conferences, you can see there's like selective approach to different countries and whatnot. And then the thing is, like, as I worked in the system as well. Sometimes like I question a lot of like our work, like, oh, should I work with this organization if they have a selective activism or approach to certain countries? To be honest, like you just learned, there's these big systems. This is not something that I can tackle alone. Like I'm just one person. So I'm trying to find as many as opportunities as I can to make sure the issue of Afghanistan is at these international platform and we're not like completely sidelined and normalized. And that's what I'm trying to focus as much as I can, because sometimes when I think about these too many problems, it's like, oh, this country is also suffering, this country is also suffering. Like, how do you pick and choose? Because obviously it's like, as a human, you also have like a certain limited capacities, like in terms of like where your energy is going as well and where your work is going. So for me, like my approach is to, as an Afghan, is to make sure the voices of Afghan women and what's going on in my country is heard at the international platform as much as I can. But that does not mean that I'm dismissing the struggles of other countries or what they have been through, because war is something that is gonna damage a lot of people, whether it's in Afghanistan or in Palestine or Ukraine. But the point is like, how do we not make this like a competition of grief? Like, I've suffered more than you. Like, okay, what now? And I think for me as an Afghan, my mission is quite clear. Like, I know where I stand, what I represent. But at the same time, showing the solidarity to other countries is necessary. But unfortunately, sometimes it's not reciprocated, which is quite unfortunate as well.
The fact of the matter is, so we are, I guess, holding accountable the leadership by saying this. But the truth is, even if you go on social media,
Yeah.
everyday regular people do this. They make it a contest when you put a picture up of one country over the other. I don't know where this stems from. I really don't. And is it a somewhat replication of the political landscape, or are people sometimes just tribalistic? Do they prefer to help people that look like them rather than people that seem foreign to them? But I think in countries like the UK, that should be limited. We live in very multicultural areas. You've been in England for 3 years, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've probably lost count of the amount of different people you've met.
Yeah.
You've probably heard of languages that you hadn't heard about before, or saw religions and practices you hadn't seen before. So I think somewhat on a regular human level, I can understand in certain places if people were tribalistically helping one group over the other. But I think in the UK, we no longer have that excuse. This is very multicultural, and we experience life amongst one another. I mean, without going into, I was going
I
to say,
think in reality, it's quite hard, to be honest. Like, it's good that, yeah, it's UK. We have a lot of educated population and we shouldn't do this. But unfortunately, it is going on.
but it's not just education, Heela. It's the fact that people here constantly live amongst people from all over the world. I think that's the difference, where I meet Afghanis, Pakistanis, Indians, Kurds, Iraqis, Yemenis, Emiratis. Like you'll meet everybody here. I think that type of limited thinking can often be excused in a place where someone has been surrounded by one or two groups their whole life.
Mm.
I can empathize with that. But once you grow up and you keep making friends and work colleagues from other cultures, how do you look past their issues?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I had friends in my circle as well who were like completely like dismissed what's happening in certain countries. I think it just comes from like subconscious biases as well that we have as humans, that yes, if certain groups look like us, or like if that safety net is there, I will support this specific cause. Obviously it means like your moral compass is not right. Something is wrong with your moral compass, like you need to like check it out. Like, to be honest, I'm also finding an answer for this. Like, some people would surprise you, like especially people will go to a lot of different platforms and then completely dismiss what's going on, and then you're like, oh, I actually didn't expect this. And I still, yeah, I get your point. It was like, if country in the UK is like a lot of people you see from different countries, nationalities, why do we still like have these biases? And to be honest, I also don't know the answer. Is like, where is it coming from? But I think social media is like fueling it more. because the way algorithm is and how people are conceiving certain content online, we shouldn't like downplay that area as well, is because most of us are on our social media and like on phone all the time. So sometimes the way we're consuming the social media and the content subconsciously is like building that biases as well, because now with AI and deepfake you can create a lot of things, especially we knew like when the war and Gaza started. So like we saw what's going on, especially like you getting shadow banned for like speaking the truth. A lot of these big corporation and social media platforms are all, they have their own biases as well, and young people are looking at these things and they're building that. You know, when sometime when we used to like make fun of our parents, is like when they see everything on Facebook they believe it, and now we're kind of like the same. We see something on TikTok and Instagram, it's like, oh, that must be true. But I think individually it's up to us as well. It's like to learn more about digital literacy and differentiate what's fake news and what's not. And think we need more investment in this in the school system as well, to like educate young people what you're consuming on social media is fake and it's like breeding more hatred towards certain groups.
Thank you for watching that clip. If you enjoyed it, here's the full podcast right here on my right, maybe your left. I'm not sure how YouTube works. Or here is another clip right here. Take care, everybody. See you on the next one.